Hello everyone. So in continuation with our discussion on qualitative user research methods, now we will be discussing about focus group and group interviews. So the key learning outcomes of this particular lecture are: we will learn how to design and conduct focus group that surface shared attributes and cultural norms. We will also see how to facilitate so that a balanced group discussion is possible, and the people who are participating, there is a surety that they feel some amount of psychological safety while participating. We will also learn how to distinguish between focus group from interviews and workshops based on research objectives that we are trying to meet. We will also learn how to analyze focus group data by capturing consensus, conflict and group constructed meaning. So let's get started. So focus group discussion is different from group discussion. However, there are certain similarities. So focus group discussion is also a group discussion. However, in this case, the most important aspect is that there is a moderator. Secondly, it is usually preferred that you have around 4 to 8 participants. Any less than 4 is not effective enough. Any more than 8 is again less effective because of too many people who need to be involved. It helps in exploring shared experiences, contrasting perspectives, and you are trying to achieve some kind of group consensus on a certain topic. It helps you in building on prior observational studies and interview data that you have already collected. The key advantages are it reveals social dynamics and also tells you how a group comes to consensus, how they negotiate meaning with each other. Typical focus group discussion should be designed for about 60 to 90 minutes. It should be recorded and you should transcribe the data at the end of it. The moderator guides but does not lead the discussion. The participants are supposed to drive the conversation. The moderator should ensure that the discussion happens within the planned time limit, and also it should not digress away from the main topic which was under discussion. The moderator's role is to also ensure that if somebody in the group is trying to dominate, then to help so that others can also participate. If somebody in the group is not participating because of whatever reason, the moderator's role is also to encourage that person's participation without making them feel awkward. The difference between focus group and interview. So an individual interview, it gives you in-depth idea about a person's personal experiences, whereas in a focus group there is breadth. So there will be multiple people with different kinds of perspectives, so which implies that you have to also recruit this focus group in a manner that capturing this multiple perspectives is possible. So have differences within the stakeholders that you bring in for the discussion. In individual interview, it is a private response and the responses are candid in nature, whereas in focus group, it is a socially negotiated response where a group of 4 to 8 people discuss and negotiate the response, and they can agree with each other, disagree with each other and come to a common ground as well. Then in individual interview, the researcher is actually controlling the flow. The researcher has decided the topics on which they are supposed to discuss, and they are asking questions and the interviewee is responding. Whereas in focus group discussion, the moderator's role is to ensure that the group stays within the discussion topic, where the participation in the group from each and every member is almost equitably distributed. However, it is the group which, because of its energy, because of its way in which it is discussing, their dynamics actually organically control the group. So with the same topic, if you conduct a focus group discussion with multiple different groups, you will see that the group dynamics actually makes it result into different kinds of ways in which the whole group progresses. In individual interview, the interaction is like the interviewer asks a question and the interview responds. So it is one voice at a time. Whereas in focus group, the participants are supposed to build on each other, challenge each other, validate each other's opinions and viewpoints. So both methods are complementary and they can be used to triangulate the findings that you achieve. So before going into focus group discussion, you are supposed to do some planning and recruitment. So the first step over here is define the research objectives. So what group dynamics will you leverage over here? So let's say I want to do a focus group discussion for a smartwatch. So in this particular case, I brought in a group which has some developers, some people from the marketing team, and some people who are medical experts, and some people who are psychology experts. Now my group dynamics, because it is composed of all kinds of experts, I will have to understand what this kind of group can give me. Here, as you see in my description, I deliberately excluded the users out of it. In case I was also planning to bring in the users, actually in my mind I had a different group dynamics which was supposed to play into picture, something of a different objective. So your research objective determines what group you will bring in for the focus group discussion and what group dynamics will you be able to leverage. So are you exploring consensus? So do all users feel this? So in that particular context, you will have to bring a group which will help you in achieve that. If you are trying to understand what are the conflicts in that particular context, so you want to understand where do they disagree. So if your research objective is that, then you will have to bring in a diverse set of stakeholders. So the example where I brought in stakeholders from diverse backgrounds for my smartwatch, that is when I am trying to find out where are the conflicts in the design of this smartwatch. But if I want to understand whether all the users are equally comfortable or equally uncomfortable with certain features, how do they use the features, what would they like additionally to be in that smartwatch, I am trying to look at consensus. So then I would like to bring in a group of only users to the focus group table and try to identify what are the features that they like, what are the features they would like to have in the future versions, and how much they are ready to pay for that. Now I might also have my research objective, which is like generating ideas. What would they want? Then again I can have my plan to have both the technical team, some people from the technical team, as well as the user team, and I have to distribute the timing in the focus group. So how much time I offer to each group and what kind of questions is offered to each group will depend on how I am trying to capture these ideas from these two diverse groups. Now that is how I go to my participant selection on the basis of this research objective. So when you have a homogeneous group, so same role or same kind of an experience, they discuss freely without status barriers. When I have a heterogeneous groups which has different kinds of stakeholders, so it helps us in capturing diverse perspectives. However, in that group as a moderator, you have to bring in parity between the groups. The people, everybody should feel that they are the experts of their knowledge domain and they should be able to freely discuss about it without feeling psychological pressure to not speak out. Typically 8 participants, at max 10 participants, more and more you recruit, it gives bigger problems. Over recruit, which is 10 to 15 to account for no shows. So if you are expecting that is a possibility, then you can over recruit as well. Also, if you plan that within the focus group discussion, you will divide them into subgroups and ask them to do certain tasks. So you can, depending on the number of subgroups that you want to do, you can also decide to have little bit larger number of people. Now screening and incentives. So confirm the basic qualifications via the screening survey. So the basic qualifications you have formulated on the basis of the participant selection criteria and your research objective. So offer incentives. So let's say I am planning to, so the incentive also depends on the kind of stakeholders that you are bringing in. Let's say you are bringing in a bunch of professors, then you will have to compensate them maybe higher for the time they are offering. However, if you bring in a set of college students who are willing to do this kind of an activity and are looking for the normal regular wages that they would have missed as a result of of participating in that activity, so you offer them that much compensation. So compensate all participants, and you can see what you do to the no shows. Sometimes people do compensate them as well, and at other times they are not compensated because they did not participate. Session logistics. So 2 to 3 hours, including setup or debrief, comfortable seating in circular or U shape that facilitates eye contact. Light refreshments can be offered that builds both a comfort as well as a natural conversation. Also, the kind of refreshment you offer, the timing at which you offer, also helps in giving a break from the heavy thinking process and re-energizes your participants to plan them accordingly. Now let's look at a case study on to see how it is operationalized. So from field to focus group, collaborative sense making of park exercise behavior. So we will take the same example, the park exercise behavior. So I have already conducted my observational studies. I also did some remote interviews. Now I will bring them together, people from different groups, one person from each of those groups that I identified for a in-person group discussion. So the first step over here is I will bring them down to this particular room. Now I observed that all of these people were in that park space for exercising because they like a certain kind of environment which is naturally lit and it is an open space. So in this group discussion, if I can create a similar kind of environment, so you can see that I have organized it in a conference room which is well lit through natural lighting, plus there is a large screen behind over here which projects some of the key images on the screen, and they will be used to create the ambience as well as to anchor the discussion. Always try to have a U-shaped or a circular table so that the entire group can look at each other. In case a table is not possible, you can also arrange chairs in a circular or U-shaped fashion, ensuring that eye contact is constantly possible. Ensure where will you put the moderator over there. You have to also decide where the video recording person, where the note taking person will be positioned in order to make the best possible usage of the given space that you have. So here you can see I have one person from each group. So the Tai Chi expert is here, the calisthenic person is here, the runner is here, and I have a endurance runner also. Now I have put the park's view, and I am trying to maintain some kind of temporal continuity while also doing this focus group discussion. So I will start from the early morning when my observation started, and slowly I will take it through the day. So starting from 5 a.m. in the morning till 7 a.m. in the morning. So the focus group discussion will be planned temporarily so that people don't have to switch their mind in a non-temporal sequence. So the key insights from this particular setup that you can get is physical co-presence enables richer interaction than remote formats. Also that when you have this group thing, the group can actually verbalize all the shared space usage related concerns and consensus and how they came up naturally to use that shared space in a shared manner. So those benefits are possible when I bring them together and have this discussion. Now I can use many different techniques also when I am doing this focus group discussion. One of the way is when I ask them a question, and the other way is I ask them a question plus I use some objects. So I can ask all of my participants to bring, in this particular case, the objects that they also carry to the park when they go in the morning for their exercise routine. So here you can see that the Tai Chi mat has been brought by the lady, and the discussions are surrounded around it. So the moderator here can start by asking, how do you use this? What is the purpose? Why did you select this particular mat? And in reference with this park, how this mat suits to that particular requirement? Do you use it during the entire session, or as I observed it after the session was over, you had spread it out and you were having a discussion? So these gives greater clarity. So the physical object triggers richer recall than the photographs alone. the object elicitation, it brings the field artifacts into the discussion room. Now remember that every field artifact cannot be brought to the discussion room. Whatever can be brought in can help in object elicitation. So try to plan for having that in the focus group discussion. Now let's say for the calisthenics practitioner, it was literally impossible to bring that equipment from the park to this particular discussion room. So this person always moved around with his water bottle and the towel. So this person can bring these products, and the discussions can be surrounded around it and other objects. So the whole idea is bring some objects so that the object plus the images, they together elicit memory and the discussions can be grounded around it. The object comparisons can also be conducted. So the object that the Tai Chi practitioner versus this practitioner brought in, are there differences? Are there differences which bring in contrasting user philosophies, or there is a match in user philosophies in the objects that they are bringing in? So cross participant object discussion surfaces latent tensions as well as complementarities that are present. Now coming to the analysis which the moderator has already performed. So you can put them up also, and they become further source of discussion. So the participants validate or challenge the researcher's data interpretation in real time. Participant driven data reviews is also a focus group technique. It helps you quickly understanding whether what your conclusions are were right. It also many a times helps the users. So the users, they are using that space every day. It has become something which is in the background of their mind. When they see your analysis, it also helps them in eliciting further thoughts onto it, and certain ideas which were not verbalized earlier could be verbalized. That's the benefit of this process. Now, as we have finished the discussions on the things that I wanted to learn from individual participants in the group, I proceeded to something which was the real group discussion. So when I started showcasing my analysis and I asked them to agree or disagree or add upon to it, that is the time where I first time started with this group discussion. If a particular member is trying to dominate the group, here you have to politely make others participate as well, and you can use phrases like thanks Jane, I have heard your, or let's say thanks Jane, the group really appreciates your contributions. Let's move on to the next member. What do you think is your view on the same? So you can politely take this conversation to the next person. Similarly, if some person is not contributing much, is a silent member, you can also address them by their name and ask them, do you think you would like to contribute? Is there something that you want to say? Do not make them feel uncomfortable. Try to help them so that slowly they can start speaking about it. Many a times in group discussions, if you find that your group is not very happy to contribute openly their ideas because they are thinking that what others might think, you can also have this strategy wherein you first ask them to write down their ideas on a sticky note. Once all the ideas are written down, you can put them on a board where everybody can see them and then ask for discussion. Now, since everybody's ideas are there on the board, it already reduces hesitation amongst the group members. Now, I have reached the stage from my previous slide to where I am trying to build in consensus, conflicts and add-ons. So, in order to reach consensus, I want to have a consensus on how this shared restoration space has to work. So, I will ask them as, how do you think the park is currently serving as a restorative bridge? What do you think can be added more to it so that the shared space becomes more effective for you? Although we can see that there are different intensities, so like in certain places there is more individual activities, in other places there is more communal activities. In certain spaces the activity is more towards doing physical exercises, whereas the other spaces are more conducive to the socialization. How do you think we can bring them together? Do you think there is a conflict happening over there? Do you think in future certain conflicts will happen? So I can keep on asking these questions. So whether through high technical achievement or low impact flow, the park serves as a restorative bridge between individual achievement and communal connection. Let's say the group reached to this particular consensus. Yes, the current design helps them, and we are not much worried that something in future might happen that this balance will be restored. So it is also possible that the group reaches to that particular consensus. They might also tell you that the current socio-political situation in our city is like that we are being threatened that this park space will be renovated for some other purpose, or half of the park space will be taken up and put in for a secondary purpose. And we do not agree for that kind of a use. So here again you achieved consensus that yeah, we do not agree for that kind of a use. So this focus group uniquely surfaces consensus that individual interviews cannot have. In individual interviews, it is always about my personal opinion. So focus group transcript might look something like this. So the moderator says, what connects all these activities? High tech, low tech, singular or group? So one of the group members, let's say David, says that final transition from singular technical intensity to communal restoration. And Sarah says, looking at each other and smiling, yes, of course, restoration. The moderator then concludes. So the consensus of this group is that the park serves as a restorative bridge between individual achievement and communal connection. So here you can see the person who is taking the notes is also writing down that okay, Anna and Sarah looked at each other, smiled at each other, and then they agreed yes, restoration. So which means both of them are saying the same thing. The moderator has to be very careful looking at all the participants and then also verbalizing that okay, so now I think the group agrees on this particular aspect. Now in group discussion versus group interviews versus workshops, the workshops are also conducted with a group of people. So in focus group, we try to achieve from 4 to 8 people. In case we are planning to have subgroups within the focus group for certain focused activities, then we can go up to 12 people as well. So the moderator facilitates discussion of topics and also provides the stimulus. Group dynamics surfaces consensus, conflict and social norms are also discussed. The data over here is about the group dynamics plus individual perspectives. In a group interview, we try to do it with 3 to 6 people. We have lesser number of people because there is one interviewer who is interviewing these 3 to 6 people together. So it is more discussion than focus group. So I am talking with these people. So the participants ask each other questions and it is easier to manage the dynamics. Here the data is more nuanced and there are individual perspectives. The idea of a group interview is not to identify consensus, conflict or social norms. So it is discussion which is happening between this group where one person asks the questions and the next person. So that's how the flow goes on. In case of design, we prefer to use more of the focus group so that the group stays within the context in which we are trying to gather our data. Let's say a workshop. In a workshop, we may gather 5 to 15 people. We may either also gather more number of people depending on how the research is designed and what we are planning to do with the participants. So the participants actively create in these workshops some prototype, they might map something, they might sketch something. By doing these activities, I am trying to do some kind of generative design workshop or a generative design research, or I might also use this to train people. So the facilitator here guides the whole process of how people are supposed to make these prototypes, maps or sketches. The rich co-creation which is happening. So if you are having like a 5 group workshop, then you might think of making people do individually. However, as soon as you have 15 people in the group, you should tend to have group sessions. So they help in co-creation. Even if they are working individually, because they are working in close contact with each other, so still idea sharing is happening and learning from each other is happening. So here the main data collected is the ideas and the group's reasoning why they went ahead with the process the way they went ahead. So when you have different kinds of groups, you have different kinds of strategies. So when you are doing a focus group, 8 to 12 people a group is the maximum that can be handled, and when you go up to anywhere more than 8, try to plan for subgroup sessions also, otherwise a lot of members in the group will not participate. For group interviews, 3 to 6 individuals is what gives you good depth. Any beyond that is very difficult to handle. Workshops 5 to 15 depending on the creation task. You can go little bit higher also, again depends on the creation task, depends on how many moderators you are going to involve in the process. The time requirement. For a focus group, an ideal time requirement is 60 to 90 minutes. However, it is possible to stretch the discussion till 3 hours also, with appropriate breaks in between and refreshments in between. However, for people to focus, for a group of people, let's say 12 people, to be able to be focused for 3 hours is really difficult. So ideally end it at 90 minutes. For group interviews, you can have again 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Usually 2 hours is already stretching it. Something which is like 1 hour to 1.5 hours is again the golden rule over there. Now for the workshops, you need little larger amount of time. Since more time is required in this particular case, plan the breaks, refreshments appropriately. 3 to 4 hours is required for creating things, creating prototypes. Now depending on the age group of the people, this time frame might also vary. So if you are doing this workshop with children, very young children who have very short attention span, again 3 to 4 hours is too much for them. So these values given are ballpark values. You have to stay within these limits and consider the attention span of your target group, giving appropriate refreshments, appropriate breaks, and maybe not conducting the entire session in one day but conducting it in multiple days can also work when you have to, because of your context, go for longer sessions. However, always remember that you might have people dropping out if you are conducting it in multiple sessions. So when you are conducting the session, mandatorily have an opening session which is about 5 to 10 minutes, and always have a warm up session which is again 10 minutes. So the warm up session is a time when you do ice breaking. So we have to make the group feel like one group who has collected over there for a particular purpose. So you can do some kinds of activities. So let's say with children, you can do some kind of exercise, some kind of play activity. Adults, you can do something like, tell us briefly, you first started using this park for exercise. This lowers this anxiety because everybody gets their opportunity to say what was their first experience using that space, and it establishes that shared context. Then the next 60 minutes is basically your actual focus group. So you can see that the opening, warm up and the wrap up are basically 30 minutes of your time, and the actual focus group is only 60 minutes. Then in the wrap up session, you are supposed to synthesize the themes. I am hearing the park serves as a bridge between individual achievement and communal connection. Is that right? So in this wrap up session, what you are trying to do is quickly make your conclusions and do a validation. The conclusions regarding the consensus, the conflicts, the add-ons. You can also, after doing this final summarization, ask them, do you have any final thoughts? So if anybody has it, then well and good, otherwise you end the session with a thank you. So the major facilitation challenges and the solutions that you can use. One of the major problem is managing dominator. So 1 or 2 loud participants usually monopolize the discussion. So you have to address them and do it kindly. So you can say, great points, let's hear from folks who haven't spoken yet. Make eye contact with the quieter participant. Use go around everyone so that everybody answers as per their turns. All these can be used, and most of the times you have to improvise while you are doing this focus group, because every group is different and every group has different dynamics. Creating the psychological safety. So participants can self-censor themselves. They give socially acceptable answers. So the solution over here is you have to see that how can you normalize disagreement. It's okay to disagree. You can say share researchers' perspective. So you can also tell your perspectives. Users have told us X, but we want to hear your honest view. So you can say like that. You can also address power dynamics. Example, don't invite the boss and the employee to the same group discussion. When you are trying to analyze this focus group discussion, you should always prepare the transcription and go to the coding process. We will discuss about them more later on in this week, and then we will do a thematic analysis. So focus group aren't about getting everyone to agree. They are about understanding the social reality in which people make decisions. So I need both agreements, disagreements, and things which people fear and things which people want more from the system as a group. So the key takeaways from this lecture are: the group dynamics is very important, and you plan for the group dynamics and you improvise on site while conducting it as well. Facilitation is therefore very critical. The objects enrich the dialogue, so think how you can have object elicitation. Analyze beyond the words, so capture not just what is happening but also capture the gestures. Maybe people are looking at each other smiling, maybe they are winking at each other, maybe they are not agreeing and the body language is saying that, so you can give this other person the chance, I think you have something to add over here, let's hear your viewpoints, and make the process keep going. So here are some references for conducting focus group studies and which you can go through. So thank you so much. See you in the next lecture. Bye.